Hello, everyone. Okay, my name is Stephanie, and I will be talking to you about sleepwalking. Have any of you ever been up at night and you've seen someone you know, wandering around the house, have a glassy-eyed look, and they're sleepwalking? It's kind of an unnerving feeling. They seem like they're looking right through you. It's a little eerie. Or maybe you've even, gone to bed at night in your own bed and woke up on the couch the next day, not really sure how you got there. Maybe you're a sleepwalker. I've had many experiences with sleepwalkers myself. I was one as a child, and I live with one now, and he's 23. So this is my little story that sparked my interest into the speech I'll be telling you guys about today. My boyfriend and I live in an old house, and it had rained the night before. Well, the next morning I go into my sock drawer to get socks for the day, and I noticed that the drawer is wet, and I'm sure you guys know where this is going. So I am thinking, oh my gosh, there's a crack in the closet door, or the closet ceiling. And there isn't. And I'm like looking closer at the drawer, and I'm starting to realize what it is. My boyfriend had peed in the closet, because he's a sleepwalker. I've experienced his sleepwalking habits before. But the point of this speech is not to bash on my boyfriend or sell those stories. It's to explain to you guys a little bit more about sleepwalking, what it is, what causes it, and the myth, the tale that you should never wake a sleepwalker. Sleepwalking is also called somnambulism. It's a very hard word to say. And it affects roughly 10% of 10% of the population, the world population. A person sleepwalking appears to be awake. Their eyes are usually open, but they will look right through you. They don't even know you're there. Person does repetitive activity usually. It could be as little as just sitting up, walking around the house, cooking, even worse cases, urinating in the closet or walking your dog. And it usually only lasts from 5 minutes to about 15 minutes, but can usually last up to an hour. And typically the person with the disorder will have no memory of it. And it's dated back in medical literature as far back as Hippocrates, so that's before 3000 BC. According to the Encyclopedia of Mental Disorders, most sleeping disorders are common. The sleeping disorder is common in children. It affects over 7% of children, although it can happen at any age, and most of the time you outgrow it by the age of 15. Episodes typically happen at age 12. That's the most common age for sleeping disorders to happen, and it's most common in boys. Sleepwalking in adults usually is based on their childhood history with sleepwalking. So if you were an adult and you sleepwalk, you probably also did as a child. Events happen into 1 to 7% of adults, while the disorder itself only occurs in 0.5% of adults. So 7% of adults may have a sleepwalking event, but only 0.5% actually have it occurring nightly. Sleepwalking is when parts of our brain are asleep and the other parts are active. That can be caused from a lack of sleep. That can be caused from consumption of different medications such as sleep depressants, antihistamines, antidepressants. It can also be linked with alcohol contribution. But there's also a disorder called sleep drunkenness, which is more like blacking out, which people do sometimes confuse with sleepwalking. It is not the same thing. Illness can also cause sleepwalking, such as fever, which messes with our nervous system, which is part of our brain is asleep, part of it's awake, and that can cause sleepwalking. Also, a deficiency in magnesium in our body can cause us into adulthood to continue to sleepwalk. Stress and hormonal changes is a big contributor to sleepwalking, such as pregnancy or puberty. That's a big contributor. And hereditary, it is very hereditary. So if your parents sleepwalk, you are more likely to sleepwalk also. And is there a treatment? Typically, we all outgrow it. There have been instances where people have committed crimes, such as murder, or car accidents or theft during sleepwalking. And in that case, those people usually need to be treated by what's called scheduled awakening. They need to be checked on every couple hours of the night so they do not fall into deep sleep, which is typically when sleepwalking happens. And they just have to be constantly woken up throughout the night to prevent them from harming themselves or others. And the best way typically for a normal sleepwalker is just to cut out any caffeine, their liquids, make sure that they have a happy sleeping environment, and make sure they get normal sleep patterns going. And should you wake a sleepwalker? That's a huge question. If any of you guys have seen the movie Step Brothers, you know what I'm talking about. Most sleepwalkers are confused and angry when they're woken up, but typically will not cause you any harm. They're not more likely to have a heart attack, which is a huge fear of people waking someone. Typically, it will cause them some distress, frustration, mostly embarrassment. But no one has ever died from being woken up from sleepwalking. So, according to the sleepwalking article, true or false, never wake a sleepwalker, on the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center website for Harvard medical students. It may cause them distress, but waking the sleepwalker is not fatal. So, even Harvard students have done studies on this. The myth of sleepwalking comes from the ancient belief that the soul leaves the body, and if the person is woken up while sleepwalking, that they will become a body without a soul. So in conclusion, just if you see a sleepwalker, just gently wake them up, send them back to bed, and all will be well. And my final remarks are just, although unnerving and sometimes funny, sleepwalking is really dangerous, but it can lead to some odd and very memorable occurrences.